Hey guys, my name's Ashwin Gore. I've been an accent coach for 10 years and I offer a full, comprehensive course to help you master the American accent, which is linked down below. Today, I'll be giving you guys a few tips to help you perfect your American accent. The first common mistake is stressing the American R. Now, in a lot of my lessons that I have either on Udemy or on YouTube, we talk about stressing the American R when doing our drills. You want a nice, strong R sound. Now, that stress is only when we're working that muscle, when we're doing the drills. But when you're actually doing text or you're in a conversation, you're not going to stress it as much. For example, you're not going to say, "Hey, how are you?" Because then you sound like an idiot. So a lot of actors seem to really stress the R when they're doing a script or when they're in a scene. What that does is it takes the casting director or the viewer out of the scene, it takes them out of reality, and then they can start hearing that you're trying to do an American accent. So what I would do is stress the R when you're doing your drills. So that way, when you've got a nice strong R and you come to the text, you'll be able to soften it automatically. If you stress it not enough in the drills, then it's going to become subliminal in the text. So when you're doing text, make sure the R isn't too pushed. You don't want it to be too soft on the other hand as well, because you don't want to say words like bar. You want to say bar, but you don't want to hit the R too hard where it goes bar. So lessen the stress on the R, but still hit the American sound there. A lot of times, actors think that in order to get an American accent, you have to move your jaw and facial muscles a lot. This is because a lot of accent coaches teach you guys that, hey, Americans have big open sounds, and to do that, you have to open your jaw, and they're very big and loud and open. That's just bullshit. Because the thing is, Americans are very different depending on who you speak to. Yeah, some people open their jaw a lot. Some people use a lot of facial muscles. A lot of people are very, very calm. They're quite still. They don't move their jaw much. Their cheeks, their eyes are quite still. So the rule here is don't use the jaw to create the sound. The throat, the jaw, I want you to think of them as vessels for the sound. It should be coming from the diaphragm and the back of the neck. If you kind of try to move your jaw too much and make an open sound, it's going to start sounding warped and it's going to sound like you're trying to put on an American accent. So don't move your jaw too much. Allow it to be natural. If you naturally don't move your jaw, great. If you naturally move it a little bit, that's okay too. But don't use jaw movement and facial movement to try and get your accent. Now, in most professions, enunciating is really, really important. If you're a newsreader or professor, you want people to understand what you're saying. There is a problem with enunciating too much, though, in an American accent. What happens is if you're trying to get it right, if you're trying to get all the sounds perfect, you start making it sound very clipped. When it sounds very clipped, it sounds unnatural. There is a difference between having an American accent and having an American voice. When we talk about American accent, that's the pure sound of the words, the rhythm, inflection, things like that. An American voice is actually sounding like an American person. That is, if you're on the ground here in the United States, people shouldn't know that you're from somewhere else. People shouldn't question your accent because you're going to sound like them. So what you want to do is, for the most part, you want to colloquialize your accent. You don't want it to be too clipped. Let's use an example sentence so I can show you what I mean. After I left the bar, I never saw him again. That was it. Now here's a more clipped version. After I left the bar, I never saw him again. And that was it. Now, the clipped version isn't too bad, but it sounds pushed. It sounds like I'm trying to get something correct. So, trust yourself when you do the American accent drills, like I teach in the Udemy course, and sometimes in these videos as well. When you do those drills, trust that they're going to work for you, that you don't have to try go overboard to make sure people know you're doing the right sound. So enunciate a little less. Adding unnecessary ER sounds is one of the biggest problems that actors have when doing tapes, auditions, or even on sets. This is what I mean. There's a lot of words that end with A. Let's use a few here. Area, Africa, yoga, and idea, right? They all end in A. What happens is when people are trying to do an American accent, they start putting an ER sound at the end of those words. For example, a lot of actors will say idea, area, Africa, yoga. So they'll add this ER sound. The reason people add an ER sound is because you're so used to having an R and an ER in most of your sentences. It's like the anchor for the American accent. So you just kind of want those words to have an or an R sound. A lot of times when there's sentences without many ERs or Rs, we feel the need to just put them in where they don't belong. Refrain from doing that, especially with words that end with A. So for example, these words would be area, Africa, idea, yoga. So they end with a sound and not with an End with a schwa, not with an ER. So be careful of that. And finally, we have inflection. Actors always inflect at the ends of their lines. Whether you're from Australia or the UK, South Africa, there's this habit to inflect at the ends of your lines and also in the middle of your lines. Be really careful about doing that because Americans don't inflect. Sometimes they don't inflect at all, or rarely they'll have like a slight inflection. So watch your inflection, because if you have all the words right, if you're saying car, bar, forever, if you're doing that, if you're doing your diphthongs, if you've got your rhythm, if everything is going perfect and you inflect, it sounds like an explosion to the casting director. It's such a loud kind of specific sound that straight away they'll go, wait. This guy, this girl isn't from the US, and then they'll start watching for your accent. They won't even watch your performance. They're just kind of concentrating on if you're American or not. So be very careful. Make sure you inflect down at your tape. Hopefully you won't make those common mistakes for the American accent when you do your self-tape. What you can do is use this video as a reference for your self-tapes. So once you've done your self-tape, go through the checklist. Make sure you're not making these mistakes to ensure you have a perfect American accent. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully those tips put you on the path to achieving a perfect American accent. For more tips and advice, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and for the full course on mastering the American accent, click the link below and check the description for a coupon code.